Hi everyone, delonewolf here. Welcome back to EVE Talk, your weekly look at the market in EVE Online. Now, obviously, I lost the Machina last week. That was not too great, but there's more and more stuff coming in our direction that will lead up to the November release. So on Sunday, tomorrow, we'll have the 07 show. So hopefully we'll have some information there. After that, on Tuesday, we have the coronation of the new Amar Empress. Then the weeks after that, we have the Alliance tournament. And during that time, I mean, this is gonna be most of October anyways, we should also see dev blogs, we should see stuff coming out on CC. So I'm hoping for a couple of interesting weeks in EVE Online coming up. If not, well, I gotta be honest, I'm enjoying Void Destroyer 2. If you didn't watch that video, I think it's a pretty cool indie game. We are here for the market, of course, so as always, we will start with some plex at around a minute. Sounds good. So let's take a look at those plex right here. You can see that they went up a little bit more. We're now at 1,132,000,000 for the sellers and 1,081,000,000 for the buyers. They had to go up a little bit as well. And on the chart, you can see that we have a nice increase in price. We're at the high point for 6 months, and there's a bit of hesitation here at the very top. As we can see, we have the median daily price actually going down from 1.12 billion on the chart. That's pretty interesting. We also see the volumes maybe going down just a little bit. If you want to sell and you bought close to 900 million, I think you're doing a decent deal. But personally, I am going to hold on until after the November release, because I think that the influx of alpha clones that will have the ambition of buying a plex on their trial will increase the price, or at least just on speculation on that should increase the price even more. But yeah, from 900 million to let's say 1.1 billion, 200 million increase, not too bad. You can definitely sell if you need the ISK right now. The multiple pilot trading certificate is doing something similar, but hesitating a bit more here. You can once again see that we went above 1.1 billion, but at the very end, a bit of hesitation is visible there as well. They are selling for 1,190,000,000 pretty much, and the buyers are at 1,032,000,000. You can also see that the availability is down quite substantially. So sellers are higher, buyers are a bit lower, and it's a much smaller market than plex, of course. Next up, Pilot's Body Rescope Certificate finally taking off as well, up to 280 million. I think it basically needed to do that to stay a bit closer to parity with plex and Aurum transitions, because from Lockfox, from EVE Prosper, we know that during this period, especially here when it was below 250 million for quite a while, it was actually selling basically at a loss if you were creating the body rescope certificates. So seeing that go down a bit, go back up a bit, I think is just normal for this market. Next up, skill extractors, of course, mirror image of the plex market, going up to 205 million. Bit of hesitation at the tail end here. Volumes are still astronomical. Full front page of new extractors coming in 50, 49, 77, 265 here, coming in at 265.7 million. And the buyers are at 251.7 million. So not as wide of a margin, and obviously very close charts to the plex charts. Skill injectors, those are actually pretty low at the moment. They're holding at 590 million, which is still below 600 million. 604 million for the sellers, 576 million for the buyers. Basically, the value of skill point farms is going down. People are not making huge profits on this anymore. Volumes seem to be down at the end here a little bit, so that could be part of the reason why we have this hesitation. The increased volume here, of course, as we reach a bottom of 580 million. I think this 600 million for a skill injector, which is now around half of a plex, if we round everything off in a quite strong manner, then I think that could be okay, right? A skill injector for 15 for half a month playtime. I think it's pretty much where it should be, but we also saw a Reddit thread where someone had actually created, I think it was 59 or 49 of these skill point farms. He had made whole calculations on that, getting it up and running. And while at first he was making a lot of money, let's maybe go for the 1 year chart. While at first he was making a lot of money in like the 640 million range, probably pretty damn good. At the moment he's not making money on those anymore, and so it's becoming more and more tricky to actually make a lot of money off the skill injectors, just creating farms. I'm sure that with the alpha clones, with the startup cost being gone, it's gonna be a bit easier to do, but overall, honestly, skill injectors are starting, in my opinion, to come in line with my expectations of what skill points are normally going to go for, and so this makes them here affordable. I would say you can start investing in them if you really want to, and if you want to gamble on an influx of players and an influx of demand of skill injectors, you can still do so below 600 million. But if you want to just buy them to use them at these prices, I think it just makes sense. Moving on to some minerals. That's going to be 6 minutes. Nice round numbers, that's good. We'll start here with titanium. That's just holding at 6 ISK on the chart. The sellers are at 607, the buyers are at 591. So right in between these we have indeed the 6 ISK price range for the chart. Basically we've stabilized, right? We went from a pretty high point close to 7 ISK down to 5.6, then we went up to 6.10, but now we've basically stabilized around the 6 ISK price range. Supply demand, it's actually looking decently good for this to continue, because we have 1 billion units here, 2 billion here, all on the demand side, but we also see 700 million coming in, 800 million coming in on the sellers, and as a result I think we're set to stay around 6 ISK. Is this good or bad? I would say you can try to hold off on an expectation of maybe a bit of a war or increased demand with more players coming back in the winter, but if you need to sell for ISK, I think selling your titanium is not that bad. Next up we've got pyrite. It's also stabilizing, unfortunately at a low point of 9.2 ISK here. As you can see, we went to a 6-month low below 9 ISK on the chart. That's pretty crazy. I think I did come here and purchase some pyrite below 9 ISK, just as a bit of an investment, not a lot, couple 100 million, but that just makes a lot of sense. Sellers 904, buyers 884. Extremely low prices if you look at this chart here. 10, 11 ISK should be possible, so for me pyrite, I'm not selling that at the moment. You can also see on the chart, of course, we're extremely low at the moment. Mexalon is next, recovering a little bit, so that's pretty interesting. Mexalon has been the winner of the summer time. It managed to stay at 74 ISK, which is a really good price for Mexalon, and after having to, of course, give way under pressure from all of the other high-ISK minerals that were going lower and lower and lower, more and more people were switching to actually mining Mexalon sources, and as a result, of course, we were oversupplied. That's the correction you're seeing through August. Went as low as 62 ISK, but now we're recovering up to 66 ISK already. That's just one seller, so 67.92, almost 68 ISK for the seller. And 63.58 for the buyers. So obviously they're following suit, they're pushing their price up. On high demand, 100 million, 68 million. I would say Mexalon once again, it's actually starting to look like a decent price to sell. I mean, close to 70 ISK. I would say that's pretty good at 68. So yeah, I would say you don't even need to consider holding on to the Mexalon anymore. If you want to sell it, go right ahead. Next up we've got Isogen, finally bumping up a little bit from their 6-month lows. Went as low as 80 ISK, bumped back up to 88. Currently sellers are at 85.6 and the buyers are at 82 ISK. So you get a bit more out of your Isogen, but honestly 90 to 100 should be a normal trade range that should be doable on a bit more activity. So I'm still not selling this. At least you're getting a bit more ISK for your Isogen now, because it's been going quite badly, as you can see, since May, pretty much since the Citadel expansion. We've been going down quite steadily to a pretty damn low point historically of less than 80 ISK. Next up we've got Noxium. That's also shooting back from 6-month low at 410 ISK. Currently we have data point here at 460, so this should be interesting. 480 ISK for the sellers, 409 for the first buyer coming in here. So obviously people spotted this opportunity. 6-month low for Noxium, came in and bought a bit. I also bought a little bit of Noxium as well. to try and take advantage of this, well, extremely low price. I mean, even the range of 450, 460 was historically extremely low. This has been the fall off of a mineral rebalance that happened more than a year ago, and Noxium was the clear loser of that rebalance. And then after the summer, or I should say at the end of the summer, we slumped to an absolute all-time low of around 400 ISK. That was just crazy. And at this point, of course, it makes a lot of sense to actually buy a bit of Noxium, because even the bounce back towards 480, possibly 500 on a bit of speculation could make you a decent amount of money, of course. And apparently I'm not the only one. For nullsec, we've got Zydrine here first, still lingering at 1080 ISK on the chart. Sellers are at 1077, buyers are at 1040. I managed to purchase a decent amount of Zydrine, I think on the way up here from 1014, which was a previous order on the way up here. So you can also see that the volumes here are not that big anymore. We've got 100,000 in a different system, then station, then we have 50,000 units just being bought right here. That is actually very doable. So yeah, even below this, look out below here, 1014 is actually the next buy order. We could actually go to a new low point for Zydrine, but I've been able to stock up on that. I've been able to purchase it pretty easily at a very good price, and making your investment in Zydrine at the moment I think makes sense if you look at this chart. For Megasite, unfortunately it's not been going that well. So the chart says around 1300, let's say that, 1289 pretty much for the sellers. The buyers have actually gone up to 1251, and that's partly my fault as well, because I've been trying to purchase some Megasite. I have a couple 100 million that I want to convert into Megasite just to be ready for production, not so much as an investment. And so I've been willing to bid up the price, and unfortunately people just kept coming up. I think 2 million units. I think this, no, that's more than 1 billion, so that's not going to be mine. But yeah, at first I went in for less than 1200. Nope, no buyers, no sellers. Then, you know, people kept going up, 1216, 1220, 1250 now, and look at that, they're still 0.1ing each other, 1251, 23, 26, 27, 33. So there is still a lot of competition on the buyer side of Megasite, and you pretty much have to buy straight from the sellers if you want your stocks of Megasite. And so that's of course not a good situation if you want to purchase Megasite as an investment. Whereas Zydrine, you can see that the gap here, 1078 is for the sellers, 1039, but just those are just a couple orders. They can actually get filled pretty quickly. You have a chance to actually pick up Zydrine on good buy orders throughout the days and weeks, and that makes this investing worth investing in my opinion. Finally, we've got Morphite still on the way down, so that's good if you want to purchase some of this. Now close to 9,000 ISK for the buyers, 9,400 ISK for the sellers. Yeah, I'm definitely seeing this now. I'm definitely doing yet another trip to Jita, and I'm gonna pour a couple more 100 million into Morphite. I think I bought some at like 9,200, and so now close to 9,000 I'm going to make yet another purchase. Considering this chart, it's pretty much a no-brainer. In fact, we're at a 6-month low, and anything below 10,000 ISK should be an opportunity. Once the war comes out, some Tech 2 stuff blows up that needs to be replaced, people will need their Morphite. And so I think it just makes sense to go and purchase it. So yeah, that's it for the minerals. Looks like there are some buy opportunities. Finally, a couple of high-sec minerals that are coming back a little bit, you know, Tritanium and Mixlon. You can definitely sell those if you need the ISK. And other than that, there's still pressure, but we also see a couple of the 6-month lows in the high-sec minerals shooting up a little bit, so people are definitely preparing for the influx in November. Next up, PI. Let's not forget it this week, 1410, and let's take a look at these. So construction blocks, the charts will be more interesting, I think. Still holding on at 14,000 ISK, which considering the entire chart is definitely above average. Also a little bit of pressure that we can see at the tail end here, but it looks like 14,000 ISK is just the current trade range for construction blocks, and it's a pretty good price, I think, historically speaking. Consumer electronics, falling off a cliff, very, very interesting. Finally, some movements that we might be able to do something with. So as you can see throughout the summer, 15,000 ISK was definitely doable. currently selling for 13,400. Buyers are at 10,800 ISK, which is, well, way below here on the chart. Yeah, consumer electronics, big move in just a couple of weeks on the downside, unfortunately, but that means that if you want to invest in this, I think it makes sense to try and pick some up on the downside here. So very interesting, very sharp move, not something that I expected, but 13,000 and a little bit here for the sellers. Someone must have come in with a lot of consumer electronics, putting huge pressure on the price. If you can pick up some of these buy orders, why the hell not? Next up, we've got the coolants holding at 13,000 ISK, pretty decent price, pretty high point for coolants at the moment. And there's really not much to say, except that someone is coming in with 13,000 on the seller side, which could start putting some pressure on it. But you can still sell your coolants, if you look at this chart, at a pretty good price. Enriched uranium next, coming off of a high point over 6 months of 17,000 ISK, so this is actually a healthy correction, I would say. The question is, how much momentum does this have? 15,500 for the sellers, 14,200 for the buyers. So it looks like it could stop at this point if it has more momentum in the upcoming weeks. Of course, we'll have to look for another low point, possibly an investment opportunity. Mechanical parts, interesting, shooting up to 11,000 ISK, that's not bad, starting at 9,000 ISK. Pretty sharp movement yet again in just a couple of weeks. Currently selling for 11,300. Buyers have to follow suit at 10,900 ISK. So mechanical parts, you could sell these. Look at the big volume spike. Someone made an investment, of course, probably on this downtrend here, and that makes the price shoot up quite substantially. Yeah, you could sell at a good price here. Very interesting. This is very much looking like a living market where we could even try some trading. Oxygen, of course, is just a processed material, so this just goes from a base extracted material into oxygen. Just one conversion cycle, that means it's just going for 500 ISK, which is a good price historically if you look at the 6-month chart, but there's not much to say about it. Next up, robotics, under pressure, very nice, down to 95,000 ISK on the median daily prices here. High point throughout the summer, almost 110,000 ISK. So currently selling for 95,000. Buyers are at 84,500 on the chart. That's right here. So you could probably try a couple of buy orders of robotics if you want to. Considering the chart though, it's mostly the sellers that are dictating this price. But you could start shooting for like 90,000 ISK or something like that if you want some robotics as a longer term investment maybe. I would wait a little bit longer, right? See the chart, break 90,000 ISK, start buying it up, then I think that makes more sense. But yeah, robotics under pressure. Rocket fuel next, holding at 12,000 ISK, a little bit of a spike, but honestly still at the high point, so there's not that much to say here. Self-harmonizing power core still going for 2.4 million despite November coming closer and closer. So still very much in an affordable range if you need some of this for the next industrial arrays. It's still speculation, of course. We would need to actually see them deployed on CC. Supercomputers just slowly going down here throughout the summer. It's currently selling for 142,000 ISK. Buyers are at 126,000 ISK. This chart is definitely still bugged a little bit. Superconductors slightly going up, but 12,000 ISK, so there's not much to say about that, honestly. 13,700 for the sellers though, that's pretty high. 11,500 for a small buyer. Yeah, it's basically going up a little bit, probably on strong demand. You can see some pretty big volumes right here. Test cultures next, holding at 9,000, is pretty much on the average of the entire chart. So I would say that there's very little to do about test cultures. It could go either way, basically. It could go up in price on high demand. It could also start to come under pressure from high supply. And so wait and see, I would say, for test cultures. Wetware mainframe holding at 2.5 million, again pretty damn affordable, definitely very available. So if you want some of those in preparation of a potential industrial array, you can definitely pick those up. as well. Looking pretty good. You've got some interesting mixes of some of them dropping off a cliff and then a couple of them shooting up quite nicely, and a decent amount of them seem to be pretty stable. So half decently interesting PI market this week. Moving on to some Tech2 ships, 20 minutes, nice and round again. I chose a couple new ones, of course, and here is the Algos chart. Very interesting, very stable chart at just 1.5 million for this destroyer. A big volume spike right here, probably 3 to 4 times the daily average. Did not shoot the price up substantially. That's not something we see all too often, but makes for normally a pretty strong Algos market. Yeah, decent availability, and as a result, pretty decently stable chart. Armageddon is next. Used to be an everydayer, so obviously pretty stable at 190 million at the moment. It's good to see that, since we haven't checked on the Armageddon in a couple of weeks. Just one big volume spike caused a price spike, but basically over the last 6 months battleships have not been in the meta, and thus they have come under pressure, as the mineral mix, of course, has also come under pressure, because the high-sec minerals were definitely going down over this period as well. So currently 190 million and pretty stable. Augurer next, 9 million on average, 10 million, 8.5 to 10 million is just 1.5 million, so this looks more violent than it actually is. Starts at 10 million, ends at 9 million, so there's not much to say here, except that, yeah, the first 3 to 4 months were basically a little bit above average, and now we actually throughout the summer had some pressure and we're a bit below average on most days. But yeah, 9 to 9.5 million on average for the Augurer. We're just a little bit below that. Availability of this ship could be good. Well, it's pretty decent, but there's not that many of them coming in freshly, so a pretty small market with some volatility, but overall decently stable. Brutix is next. That's interesting. Look at this volatility right here. Starts at 60 million at a high point, ends at 51 million. That's more than 10% if you start on the bottom side. Up to 60 million again, down to 52 million, up again. Unfortunately, as we hit summer, volatility obviously decreased and the pressure came on from the lower activity in EVE Online. Currently going for 54 million, 55.8 for the sellers, 50.8 for the buyers. Very decent availability for the Brutix here. So after a volatile first half of these last 6 months, unfortunately the summer decrease in activity meant that the Brutix went down in volatility and in price. Next up we've got the Burst. Okay, counterintuitive here. Starts at 250k and ends at 250,000 ISK as well, but basically went up for 6 months up to 350,000 ISK and now just dropped off a cliff, probably on fresh supply. Yep, that's pretty much what happened in the last few days. You can see 4900, 48, 87, 73. So basically the market slowly dried up of bursts, as people still bought just a couple every day, and then at some point we reached 350,000 ISK and a couple of producers came in with some fresh supply, bringing the price back in line. It took almost 6 months to do that though. Next up we've got the Corax. Starts at 1.2 million, ends at 1.2 million. Again, a similar pattern to the Brutix. First half of these 6 months on average a little bit above this 1.2 million price mark, and then throughout the summer on decreased activity we went below that. Purchasing opportunity at 0.8 million, definitely not bad, and you can see someone spotted this as well. Big volume spike right here, bring it back aligned to 1.2 million. Summer pressure back, but now we're recovering finally. Next up, the Coveter Tick 1 mining barge. This looks decently good at around the 32 million mark here, with a couple of high points, but really nothing too drastic to report. Availability is pretty high as well, decent. Next up we've got the Drake. Yeah, a bit of volatility here. Starts at 59 and well, actually 52 to 59 million on the high to low points is not that volatile, so I think that this chart is a bit more volatile shows a bit more volatile than it actually is. Average price 55 million, we're pretty much there. And again, you've got some high points a couple of months ago, and then you have a pretty low point at 50 million just around a month ago or so in September, early September. Availability pretty damn decent for the Drake, so honestly it looks half okay. Executioner, of course, frigate much more stable, starts at 350, ends at 350. Bit of a blip here in mid-July. Some volume spikes as well up to that point. This is probably when it went down to 250,000 ISK. Bit of hesitation, but in the end someone did come in and basically buy all the executioners, bring it back in line with its average price. Availability, 1500 right here, but they're still coming in as well. Next up we've got the Rupture. Very interesting early spike, probably related to the war. I think some Rupture fleets may have been flown and lost there, which meant a spike from 11 million to 14.5 million. After that, of course, when the war didn't drag on and industrialists saw this opportunity, we dived to below the average to 10.5 million, but on average 11.5 million looks quite okay. A bit more volatility, I would say, on the downside at the end of the summer, probably on low activity, but availability is quite good. And finally, the Typhoon went down to 170 million. This is yet again a battleship that actually knew a couple of price spikes right here on purchases throughout the summer, which is pretty interesting. But now, of course, summer slump, under pressure, and to pretty much a low point, I would say, for the Typhoon. So yeah, Take-Two market, I think the upcoming months, of course, could be interesting with the alpha characters, but that's only up to cruiser classes. But we'll see how all of that plays out. Next up, we've got some Take-Two ships. That's going to be at 2630, pretty much. Let's see if we can spot some volatility. Unfortunately for the Basilisk, that was doing pretty well to go up from let's say 195 to 225 million. It's already back in line with its normal price of 200 million. So this chart is not a chart you're gonna make a lot of money on. The Broadsword next, again, try to show some volatility, going up to 270 from 250. That's still not enough. Now it is back down to 240, but yeah, this is just too timid, too small. I'm not willing to risk any risk on this. The Cerberus went to a low point of 200 million, and unfortunately some people, but not that many, you don't see a huge volume spike, but some people did probably try to take advantage of that. But the move up is just 5-6 million up a little bit. This is again not something you're going to make a lot of trade money on. I really do think that we need to, for the Take-Two market, if you want to still make some money in this, you need to spot the 6-month low buy opportunities, and then you'll need to wait for an actual war to happen in Nullsec in order to make some money on that. Damnation next went up, I think, on the booster changes, but came back down to 320 and now is on its way back up to 360. Honestly, this is a gamble you could have taken knowing that the booster changes were coming, but this is, of course, the volatility here is created by CCP basically. So it's not a prime example of something you'll be able to do in any Take-Two ship. The Hound next, unfortunately, tried to go up to 20 million and now it's back down towards 18 million. This is not where you're gonna make trade money. The Kronos, that's a bit of volatility, but of course 1.15 billion up to 1.4 billion. That's quite a bit of money you need to be speculating on a ship that on average sells less than 10 units a day. Then went back down to 1.15 billion and is on its way back up. So if you have really deep pockets, the Kronos market could still be alive. Next up here we get the Raptor, just a picture of stability. The Saber, again stabilizing at 51 million, and you can see the decrease in volatility since the war here. The tops just keep getting lower and lower, the bottoms keep getting higher and higher, and unless we see another war, where Sabers, of course, very important ships in any big wars, will get lost quite a lot, that's when you'll see volatility come back. But until then, unfortunately, not really. The Stork here, one spike up to 80 million. That could have been worth it. Second spike up to 75 million. So some volatility on big volume spikes. But really, I'll be honest, I expect this to be plugged pretty quickly. 60 to 65 million trade range. And unless a war happens, I think we'll just start to stabilize on this ship as well. Next up here, we've got the Widow. On average, just a bit above 1 billion ISK, again a covered ops battleship. You need pretty deep pockets and a taste for risk to spend that kind of money, hoping to sell them at a profit on averages of maybe 10 a day or something like that. So I would say it's too risky, but it's pretty much your only hope, like something like the Kronos, to still do active trading in the Tech 2 market. Next up, we've got Tech 3 then, 3015. Good. Let's take a look at these. I think the cruisers were at a high point and the destroyers were stabilizing at around 50, maybe 45 to 50 million trade range. So for the Confessor, obviously stabilizing at 50 million is the name of the game. Very good availability, full front page of new ones, but they're not over pressuring the price at the moment. Next up, the Hecate, again stabilizing at 47 million. Couple of fresh ones, half a front page. Looks good to stay stable for now. Jackdaw next, slowly going down towards 45 million or something like that, I would say. Let's see. But set to spike up as well because availability is gone. So obviously people would prefer to bring in Confessors and Hecates. It feels to me like they're a bit more careful than before when it comes to selling them. So I actually think that the Jackdaw is just going to spike up towards 50 million maybe, but then it's just going to stabilize there as well. And then finally we've got the Zwipel, which is also under pressure after a big price spike up to 58 million. So obviously the response has just been a bit too strong, and people are now pushing the Zwipel below 47 million ISK. But once again, if Confessor and Hecate are any indication, I think that it's going to just start stabilizing in the 45 million to 50 million range. All of them are probably going to find an average there, unless again a war or something like that. Next up, we've got the Legion Cruiser. We should see a chart that went up quite dramatically. It did, and it is falling back a little bit. So probably on purchases for Nelsec Alliances, we are now back to 160 million ISK. The question is, are you going to risk some money on a next spike, or are you going to wait to see if the next summer it shows the same pattern of very low bottoms to 130? I would say if we go close to 140, you can definitely start purchasing, but I would wait it out a little bit. Next up, we've got the Loki, actually staying at 165 million ISK. Availability quite decent. Look at that, just coming in every couple of days. Legion coming in quite strongly, so obviously the pressure is from all that fresh supply. Then we get the Proteus also under pressure to 170 million ISK, 173, 163, yeah, definitely full front page of new Protea. And then Tengu should be under pressure as well after a top of 175 million, back down to 160 on high supply. Yeah, this is to sell in a week, probably a bit of a mistake that's been made here. But all of this supply is also going to put pressure on the Tengu to go back down a little bit. So obviously the cruisers have known a couple of very nice weeks on big purchases from alliances. If you'd taken advantage of the summer slump to purchase a decent amount of them at very low prices, you're still set to make a lot of money. But now I think things are set to settle down a little bit. That's my personal opinion on the Tech 3 market. We'll need a couple more weeks to know if that actually does work out that way. And then finally we have the requested boosters as the extra materials. So I'll do 3355 because I still have to look for them a little bit. So implants and boosters. As you can see, it's quite a lot of them, and I'm not really sure how this is produced, what all of them make. So I'll just go with the requested. We had Blue Pill and what was the other one? Damn, can't really remember. Was it Exile? I think it's Blue Pill and Exile. So we'll start with these. Blue Pill booster went up in price a little bit. At some point they were decriminalized, so they became legal in HiSec to transport. I think that's this decrease in price, but now improved blue pill definitely went up, and then improved exile is basically still at a 6-month low point, not doing too hot. Let's look for standard blue pill, also under pressure. Standard exile booster also at pretty much a low point here. Strong blue pill, I would say that this is alright, 22 million right here, still holding a pretty average price. Exile booster holding at 22 million as well. And do we have more blue pill stuff? Nope. So honestly, there is this decrease that you can see here. Blue pill decrease here, June. Man, whoa, big shot up from 18 million to 36 million. That must have been on speculation of the booster changes. Unfortunately, went right back down after that. So unfortunately, I don't know too much about this market. Maybe, you know, I'll take a little bit of time. Let's just go over all of them. Anti-Pharmacon, definitely like a new one that has now stabilized. Yeah, new one that stabilized. All these anti-Pharmacons are based on drifter stuff, I think. Copper Ouroboros accelerator stabilizing at 50 million ISK, that's not bad. Gold Ouroboros, that's from the Shadow of the Serpent event, still going for 400 million ISK. That's not bad either. Improved blue pill, we saw that go up a little bit. Improved crash, heading back down to a 6-month low of 5 million. Improved drop, also under pressure, but did really well throughout the summer. Improved exile booster under pressure. Frentix booster, difficult chart, but I would still say low point. Mind floods, pretty much average, 7 million, looks okay. Soothsayer, difficult chart, can't really tell you much about that. Improved X Instinct booster, man, that's pretty nice. 6 million up to 15 million and back down. Pretty good September month right here for the X Instinct booster. Syn blue pill, as we can see, stabilizing but at a pretty low point of 1.4 million. Quave 0 up to 8 million ISK, not bad, I still have a couple of those. Silver Ouroboros down to 100 million, okay. Standard blue pill under pressure. Crash, standard crash booster, average but on the low end. Standard drop booster, that's actually one of the first one that we're seeing that's actually, I would say, above its average at the moment at 4 million. So I'm getting the feeling here again, standard exile at the low end here. Frentix booster at the low end yet again. Mind flood actually under pressure from an average price. Standard soothsayer, pretty low point. The X Extinct, are we again going to see? Nope, just again below 1.5 million. I would say at the low point again. Strong blue pill is doing alright, that's another exception. Strong crash, pretty much a low point. Strong drop booster, on its average 16 million. Strong exile wants to go up, but also again on its average. Strong Frentix, ooh, that's interesting. Look at that, went from 15 million to 50 million. Just basically because we're empty of those, alright, and a couple of people actually bought at these high prices. Strong Mind Flood booster, 30 million. Low point, low side of the average, I would say, yet again. Strong Soothsayer, yeah, difficult chart. X Instinct going to a 6-month low. Blue pill here, bit of speculation at the tail end, but still 350k, not too much. Synth crash at a high point. Synth drop though at a low point. Synth exile at a low point. Frentix booster. So a couple of these synthetic boosters are actually up quite a bit throughout September. They are the exception. Many of them are still at a low point though. Soothsayer and X Instinct 200k, low average but stabilizing. So there we go. I quickly went through all of them. I can't really give you a lot of specifics about the boosters because I've never made boosters. I don't really know enough about them, but my personal feeling of going through the entire set and taking a look at all of these charts is that most of them are under pressure, probably from the summer slump, right? Lower activity, lower prices, and are currently either stabilizing but below their normal averages, or trying to stabilize coming off of 6-month lows. There are a couple of exceptions, which is mostly in just the synth boosters, like the Blueprint, the Crash, and the Frentix, that are for some reason basically going for 50% more, but they are also under pressure already, probably from increased supply that's coming in, seeing these opportunities. But overall, I would say that the booster market seems to have suffered from the summer slump and seems to be under pressure, except for a couple of exceptions. So I hope that helps. Unfortunately, I don't know enough about the booster market to make that like a regular category or anything like that. So if you want me to check the booster market, I would say put that in the comments and I'll try to slot it in for one of the extra materials. Thank you very much for watching, guys. That's it for this ETH talk. And as always, I'll see you all next time.